Hi, I'm Jill, Curator of Anthropology and Exhibitions here at the Boonshoff Museum of Discovery in Dayton, Ohio. I'm going to talk a little bit today about pottery, one of my very favorite things. Side note, I actually am a pottery expert, believe it or not. That's what I did for many, many years before coming to work here at the museum. This pottery in this cabinet alone, we have about 20,000 pieces of pottery, and this all came from one archaeological site called SunWatch Indian Village, which the museum also operates. If you haven't been there, hopefully someday you'll get to go. It's really, really cool. So SunWatch is a Native American Indian village. It was occupied about 800 years ago. The museum excavated that site mostly in the 1970s, 1980s, and that's where all this pottery came from. If you get a good look, these cabinets only have what we call the diagnostic pieces of pottery. So diagnostic means you can tell a little bit more about it from the piece itself. So these have pieces of the rim or the top of the pot, or they have decorative motifs. This motif is called a rectilinear guilloche. We also have things like this. These are called line-filled triangles. And all of these decorations are what we call diagnostic to a time period or a culture called the Middle Fort Ancient. So how do you study pottery? If you look at all this, what are we trying to learn? So in archaeology, we don't really study stuff, we study people. So we want to use these pots to learn about the people that made them. So if you have a little bitty piece of a pot, like let's say, let's find a good one. Something like this. What can you learn from this? What do you want to know? Well, the first thing we want to try to look at is how big is the pot, right? How do we know? Well, we are assuming if you look at the bowls and the cups and things in your house, everything at the top is a circle. So we're going to assume that the top of these pots are circles too. We use something called a diameter chart to figure out how big these pots were. So you have to get the right angle of this pot. So you kind of got to work it and feel it. This is something that you learn through doing this over years and years and years, like I have done. And then you line it up on the chart with these arcs to figure out how big it was. So this particular pot was pretty big. It was about 26 centimeters in diameter. So that's a pretty big pot. What do big pots tell us? Well, there's a very famous journal article that came out years ago called Big Pots for Big Shots, which I really like. So basically, a large pot is telling us that people are cooking a lot of food at once or storing something. So think about American Indian people 800 years ago. Did they have refrigerators? What do you think? No, they did not. So if you are cooking a lot of food at once, that means you're going to have to consume a lot of food at once. You're not going to be able to store it. So if you look down here at some of these SunWatch pots, they're pretty big. So that's telling us that they're cooking a large amount of food at one time and having some type of communal eating event or ceremony or special day where they have to consume all that. So that's telling us something about their lifestyle and what they were doing as people. So that's what we really want to know. Some of my favorite pottery at SunWatch is this. Can you see this? What does this pot do? Can you tell? It actually sparkles. So this has called a special temper. Temper is something that you mix into the clay when you're making the pot to make the walls even stronger. So they tempered the pots with shell, with rock, or this is called micaceous schist. And it actually sparkles. So a really fun thing to do at home, I know everybody loves glitter. Everybody has glitter at home, maybe. So if you take glitter, you can mix it into your Play-Doh and make sparkly Play-Doh and make your own mica tempered pot. That's pretty fun to do. Another activity you can do is actually make your own diameter chart. All you need is a compass, a ruler. This handy dandy ruler's got some dinosaurs on it, and a piece of paper, any paper. So take your paper, you lay it out, take your ruler, and you lay it right on the paper, straight up and down. So you can use centimeters or inches. Archaeologists like centimeters because we work in metric, but that's a different conversation for a different day. So go ahead and line your ruler up and mark the bottom as your 0. Then put a line at 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch. You can make them smaller if you want to do 1/2 inches, you can. So it kind of depends on how accurate you want to get with your measurements. Then you take your compass. Let's get it. So you put it right on the dot. Let's make sure we get it large enough. Ooh, we're getting closer. This is a fancy one. Okay. And then you make your arc. There's your first arc. Then you go to your next point. We might have to put this in a fast motion. Okay, so now you can take any container and line up the arcs to get the diameter. So you can put your little 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.55. And there you have it. So that's a little fun game, and hopefully you learned something today. Bye.